Ever wonder what lit the fire under Elon Musk, before Tesla and SpaceX were things? Today's deep dive takes us back to those early days,
Yeah.
unearthing those fascinating, often chaotic beginnings of Zip2, PayPal,
Right.
and, yeah, even the unbelievably audacious start of SpaceX.
It's really interesting to trace that evolution for him.
Yeah.
From a self-taught coder to the leader he is today.
Right,
These early ventures, they were like a crash course in leadership, in teamwork, and tackling these massive technical hurdles. And you can really see how it shaped his style along the way.
Yeah, and our source, the audiobook Elon Musk,
Yeah.
Tesla, SpaceX, and the quest for a fantastic future, it doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Right.
It's full of clashes with investors, engineers getting pushed to their limits, even sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
But it makes it so compelling, right?
It is.
You see the seeds of those aggressive deadlines,
Yeah.
the blunt feedback, all the things that we kind of know as his hallmarks now. That was all there from the beginning.
Absolutely. Take Zip2, for example.
Okay.
Picture this. Elon and his brother Kimball, fresh off a cross-country road trip in their beat-up BMW, they arrive in Palo Alto. They secure $3 million in funding, rebrand from Global Link to Zip2, and set up shop.
And remember, this is the mid-90s.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Wild West of the early internet boom.
Yeah.
Zip2's big idea,
Right.
bringing newspapers into the digital age with online directories before most people even knew they needed it.
Exactly. Classic Musk. Spotting a gap in a massive market and just going all in.
Totally.
But here's where the plot thickens. The investors, wanting a steady hand, they bring in a seasoned CEO, Rich Sorkin,
Okay.
which shifts Musk into the role of chief technology officer.
Now imagine being used to calling all the shots
Oh, yeah.
and suddenly having to share control.
Yeah.
You could practically hear those gears grinding.
Yeah.
But in the investors' defense, their caution wasn't totally unfounded.
Right.
Remember that hairball code situation?
Ah, yes. That's a good example. Highlights a common hurdle, I think, for a lot of brilliant self-taught coders.
Yeah.
Musk's code, though functional, it was notoriously difficult for others to work with.
Really?
Massive, interconnected in a way that made it prone to breaking down.
Oh.
And nobody could quite figure out why.
It's interesting, though.
Yeah.
This was a turning point for Musk. They brought in these new recruits.
Yeah.
These top-tier coders from, Silicon Graphics.
Right.
And they were essentially forced to rebuild much of his code.
Wow.
It forced him to acknowledge that his way wasn't the only way. That collaboration, however challenging, could lead to a better end product.
And that theme of collaboration, of valuing diverse expertise, that emerges repeatedly in these early ventures.
What is it?
It's like watching him learn to temper his instincts as this brilliant, often solitary mind and start to see the power of a team.
That's interesting. And speaking of learning curves, let's move on to X.com.
Okay.
Fresh from his Zip2 success, what does Musk set his sights on?
Banking.
Of all things, banking.
Wow.
It might seem like a curveball,
It does.
but remember Musk's pattern, targeting industries that are just ripe for disruption.
Right.
He saw traditional banking as clunky, outdated,
Yeah.
and thought, the internet can fix this.
Of course.
And true to form, he dives headfirst,
Yeah.
armed with little more than a book on banking he'd picked up along the way.
Amazing. It makes you wonder, if he could teach himself rocket science, why not banking?
Right. But this is where another big name enters the scene. Peter Thiel.
Ah, yes. Future PayPal co-founder.
Right.
Their story, it actually begins as a rivalry.
Oh.
Thiel's company, Confinity, had this revolutionary online payment system called PayPal,
Okay.
allowing users to send money via email, unheard of at the time.
Wow. So naturally, Musk saw this as direct competition.
Oh, yeah.
And things got, well, let's just say the competition heated up quickly.
To put it mildly, it was a full-blown Silicon Valley showdown, poaching employees, this constant game of one-upmanship with new features.
Wow.
They were relentless.
And in a twist that probably surprises no one listening, Musk, recognizing a kindred spirit, ends up merging with Confinity
Right.
to form what we now know as PayPal.
Wow.
It's a rare moment of pragmatism, agreeing to even step down from that CEO role.
Really?
Temporarily, at least.
Emphasis on temporarily.
Right.
Because even though he saw the potential of their combined forces, the merger itself was, tumultuous,
Yeah.
plagued by power struggles and technical headaches. And just as things were finding their footing, disaster struck.
This is where the story takes an almost Shakespearean turn, right?
It does.
Musk decides to take a well-deserved vacation,
Okay.
a luxurious safari in wait for it, South Africa.
Oh, no.
The irony is almost palpable. While he's off communing with nature, a full-blown coup d'etat unfolds back at PayPal. The board, frustrated by his absence and, let's say, those grand, some might say distracting visions he had for the company's future,
Yeah.
they decide to replace him as CEO. So there he is, probably on safari, with limited phone reception, and gets the news that he's been ousted from his own company. You have to admit, the timing couldn't be worse.
Brutal. A crushing blow for most. But Musk, true to form, channels his frustration and ambition into something even bolder, even more audacious. And this, my friends, is where the seeds of SpaceX are sown.
We left off with Elon Musk, fresh off his dramatic exit from PayPal,
Right.
about to embark on what might be his most audacious venture yet.
Yeah.
The year is 2001.
Okay.
The dot-com bubble has burst.
Right.
And while Silicon Valley is licking its wounds, Musk sets his sights on dot space.
Of course he does.
And not just space exploration in the traditional sense.
Right.
His initial goal was incredibly ambitious,
Yeah.
even bordering on outlandish. He wanted to launch a greenhouse to Mars.
A greenhouse.
To Mars. Talk about aiming high. But of course, he didn't start with building rockets in his garage, did he?
No, not quite. His initial plan involved buying a rocket. A refurbished intercontinental ballistic missile from Russia, to be precise.
Wow.
He even flew to Moscow to meet with Russian rocket scientists.
Okay, that's classic Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Diving headfirst into a new field, ready to negotiate a deal on something as complex as a rocket. You have to admire the audacity.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did the Russians welcome him with open arms?
Not exactly. They sensed an opportunity.
Yeah.
They recognized Musk as this wealthy entrepreneur.
Right.
Perhaps a bit naive about the intricacies of rocket science.
Right.
The price they quoted was astronomical.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars per rocket, with no guarantees that it would even reach Mars.
I can only imagine his frustration. Here he is, ready to invest his own money, his own time, to make this grand vision a reality. And he's essentially being stonewalled. So what changed?
It was on the flight back from Moscow, surrounded by his team, that Musk had his now legendary epiphany.
Yeah.
He pulls out his laptop
Uh-huh.
and starts crunching numbers, completely absorbed in his own world. Okay, and then, with a completely straight face, he announces, I think we can build this rocket ourselves.
Wait, hold on. He decides to build a rocket himself after being basically laughed out of Russia for even suggesting he could buy one. That takes some serious guts.
It wasn't just bravado. Musk had been immersing himself in aerospace engineering textbooks, teaching himself the fundamentals of rocket science.
Wow.
And he had something else up his sleeve. These meticulously crafted spreadsheets breaking down the cost of each rocket component.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. This is where Musk's approach goes beyond just having, big crazy ideas.
Yeah.
He's willing to dive deep, to become a student again, and to back up his vision with meticulous planning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that combination of audacity and detailed planning, that's what draws people to him. He managed to recruit this brilliant young rocket scientist named Tom Mueller.
Okay.
Mueller had been working at, these established aerospace companies, but he was drawn to Musk's vision.
So it's like a scene from a movie. This internet entrepreneur walks into a room full of rocket scientists and says, I can do this better, faster, and cheaper. And people actually believe him. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how did they even begin to tackle this, monumental challenge?
They found this rundown warehouse in El Segundo, California,
Okay.
assembled a small team of talented, often very young engineers,
Right.
and basically started building a rocket from scratch.
A rocket in a warehouse. It sounds almost impossible.
It was like the ultimate startup environment.
Yeah.
Welding, testing engines, even experiencing a few explosions along the way.
Oh, wow.
But through sheer determination, long hours, and Musk's, very hands-on approach, they started making progress.
We've heard stories about Musk's, intense work ethic, but how did that translate to this early SpaceX team? Was it all work and no play?
Musk is famous for his lead-by-example style.
Right.
He was right there with his team, pulling all-nighters, sleeping under his desk, personally delivering parts when needed. He even became known for his late-night video game sessions, often challenging his team in, epic Quake 3 arena battle.
Video game, so it wasn't all work and no play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's another facet of his leadership that often gets overlooked. While he demanded excellence, he also fostered a team spirit, a sense of camaraderie, even amidst all the pressure and long hours.
Right.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. During this period, Musk and his then-wife, Justine, experienced the tragic loss of their first child.
It's a stark reminder that behind the ambition, the drive, there's a very human side to Musk. How did he cope with such a personal tragedy while simultaneously shouldering the weight of, like, two companies on the verge of, major breakthroughs?
It's a testament to his resilience, really. He channeled his grief, his energy, even deeper into his work,
Yeah.
finding solace and purpose and pushing forward. Both SpaceX and Tesla were nearing crucial milestones, but not without facing, more obstacles. While SpaceX struggled to achieve a successful launch, Tesla was burning through cash, and the media was relentless in their skepticism.
So here's Elon Musk juggling two companies on the brink, facing personal tragedy and a skeptical public. It's hard to imagine the pressure he must have been under. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Last we left off, SpaceX and Tesla were both, well, hanging by a thread.
Yeah, it wasn't looking good.
Picture this. It's 2008.
Okay.
Global recession, funds are dwindling, the weight of multiple failed launches is on SpaceX's shoulders.
Right.
It really felt like the odds were stacked against them.
It's remarkable, when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's a real testament to Musk's resilience.
Yeah.
He didn't just, weather the storm, he doubled down.
Wow.
Poured everything he had into keeping those companies afloat, even resorting to personal loans, maxing out credit cards.
It's one thing to risk your own money when you believe in something that much, but how do you convince investors to keep the faith?
Right.
Especially after 3 very public, very expensive launch failures.
That's where Musk's unwavering belief in his vision and his ability to convey that passion, it really shines.
Yeah.
He somehow managed to secure one last chance, one final launch,
Okay.
to prove that SpaceX could achieve orbit.
Talk about pressure. I mean, can you imagine being there at mission control as that Falcon 1 rocket is being prepped for launch?
You can't even imagine.
It was a make-or-break moment, not just for SpaceX, but for his entire vision for the future of space travel.
And against all odds, it flew.
Wow.
That successful launch from, a tiny island in the Pacific Ocean,
Right.
it wasn't just a victory for SpaceX. It was
Right.
a pivotal moment, I think, for the entire commercial space industry.
Totally. Now, you would think that after being that close to disaster, that a moment of celebration would be in order, right?
I think so, yeah.
But again, this is Elon Musk we're talking about. So what was his next move?
While the world's celebrating, Musk's already focused on the next challenge,
Of course.
on pushing the boundaries even further.
Yeah.
And as fate would have it, opportunity came knocking.
Okay.
NASA, very impressed by SpaceX's achievement, awarded them a $1.6 billion contract
What?
to resupply the International Space Station.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. This small startup, this company that so many people had written off,
Right.
they just secured a lifeline, not just for themselves, but, for the future of space exploration as they saw it.
Huge turning point.
Huge. But back on Earth, Tesla was still struggling. The Roadster, although a technological marvel, faced production delays.
Right.
Skepticism from the press. It seemed like every blog, every news outlet had this running commentary on Tesla's, impending doom.
It's a familiar story, though, right? This
Yeah.
visionary entrepreneur pours his heart and soul into this groundbreaking product,
Right.
only to be met with, doubt and criticism along the way.
So how did Tesla navigate those turbulent waters?
While they're battling to just ramp up Roadster production, Musk is already strategizing for Tesla's next act, the Model S. He recognized that the Roadster, while groundbreaking, was kind of a niche product.
Right.
The Model S, this was his play for the mass market.
Okay.
This was his chance to bring electric vehicles to the world.
But, of course, it wouldn't be a Musk story without a little internal drama.
Right.
His vision for Tesla, it led to some clashes with the co-founder and then CEO, Martin Eberhard.
This wasn't just a difference of opinion. This
Right.
was a fundamental disagreement about the company's direction,
Yeah.
its finances, its entire future.
Wow.
And in a move that surprised absolutely no one, Musk took over as CEO.
It was this messy, very public power struggle.
Yeah,
But Musk came out on top, ready to steer Tesla through what would become a defining chapter in the company's history.
absolutely.
It's amazing to think that these early ventures, these wild, sometimes chaotic stories, they really laid the groundwork for everything that came after.
They did. It's like this crash course in leadership, in pushing boundaries, and never giving up on, what seemed like impossible dreams.
And that's what's so fascinating about digging into these early years, right? We see how those challenges, those setbacks, they didn't break him. They fueled him.
They did.
They forged this relentless drive that would go on to disrupt, not just one, but multiple industries.
Absolutely.
And that's the Elon Musk story, isn't it?
It really is.
A testament to the power of audacious goals, a
Yeah.
relentless pursuit of innovation, and, a healthy dose of chaos along the way. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.